Technologies for the walls you see behind us. Black water ammunition, of course. Rhino metals for all the tables and furniture you see in the studio. And, of course, Galco leather holsters. Appreciate them. Appreciate everybody. We got a special show today. This guy's Pro 2A. He's fucking badass. I have heard a lot of good things about him. I purposely have tried my best to not talk to him at all since he's been in here because I just want to do this all on air. But he sounds like a pretty badass dude coming from some pretty badass dudes. We got the one and only UFC's Cody Stamann. What's going on?
Oh, just
hanging and banging, right?
Living the dream in Las Vegas.
Living the dream. So listen, it's exciting to have you in here. I probably haven't heard more about a guy before a show than you. And I'm looking over at Coach, but I haven't heard more about a guy other than you. Honestly, I mean, I've heard a lot of good things about you, and I heard you're a fucking animal.
I tend to lean that way a lot of the times. It's shutting it off. That's the hard part.
Now,
right?
That is the hard part. Now, I've been around some pretty savage dudes, but it's, you have a story that is pretty fucking amazing, and I want to dive right in. First, let's start. How the fuck does the UFC happen in the first place? How does that all come to pass? And where did that genesis start? Were you like 10 years old and want to beat people up, or where did it all start?
No, I'll just summarize it. I boxed and wrestled growing up, and so that was obviously the foundation of MMA. Boxers, wrestlers, they're the guys that compete at the highest levels. So it wasn't really a big deal. I never really intended on being a fighter. I never really watched it, never really cared about it. And then, after my competitive career was over, boxing, wrestling, I went to work. My parents own a restoration company, and, I worked like a dog and kind of realized that there's got to be more than this. I'd been an athlete my whole life, and then, MMA gyms started popping up in my local area. I honestly, it was my mom, because he was coming home every weekend from, a party here, there, a party there. If there was no women at the party, I was 100% getting in a fight.
Right.
It was inevitable. So I'd come home with black eyes and messed up stories, and I got a little bit of reputation, where I'm from, and
scrapping.
Oh yeah, and cliche story. Started doing MMA, and I just fell in love with it. It kind of took over my life.
It's crazy because I can understand that, right? So that's crazy enough, but it's even crazier when you get a family that has a business, and it's not, you understand business obviously, and the way you carry yourself, the way you approach things. I've heard nothing but great things about your approach to fighting, so you understand all those things. It's not like you were a raw piece of metal, you know what I mean? Yeah. You get it. And is it tough for you sometimes to get into that violent mindset coming from that, or do you just easily flip the switch? I'm always curious about that, because it's not like you come from this like broken situation, right?
Right. No, I have an amazing family. Yeah. Great parents. I don't have the typical cliche story, some like my dad knifed me at 12.
Yeah, exactly. Not that I'm laughing at that, but
nothing crazy. I mean, my dad was a hard dude, but I mean, it probably turned me into the guy I am today. Thank God for him. But the violent stuff, I'm just I think a pretty naturally violent person. I think shutting it off is the hardest part. After a fight, everybody talks about, you got to obviously go to pretty dark places when you fight.
Of course.
It's a dark thing. Same, any kind of any form of combat, you got to go to some dark places. And it's really, it's turning it back off and going into, everyday society. That's the hard part. It's trying to have the conversation with the guy who's talking about, how his boss is a dick, and, he has these, what seems to me to be like the most insignificant, stupid problems in the world, and I'm trying to act like I give a shit. That's the hard part for me is not being around the savage guys that, are trying to kill each other in the gym. It's trying to be like a normal, productive member of society after, doing what I do day in and day out.
Yeah, but I would think you're at the point in life where you can stay pretty dialed in. I know what you're saying, but you want to stay like laser focused in a bubble where you can be that guy. I mean, to be that person, I think I've watched enough Tyson documentaries to see like you got to go to a fucking ugly place. And when you're training in any form of combatives, I think you have to understand first the mindset. So even if it's shooting, right? If it's training in the shooting world, right? I always tell people, if someone kicks in your door, they're not kicking your door in to play nice. They're coming to rape you and kidnap you, you know? Right. So you have to understand your mindset, where you'll be in that situation and what you're willing to do and not willing to do to defend your family. It's very different than, you know, just kind of answering the door as if like, oh yeah, just come take me and steal my kids and right. everything's good, especially in today's environment. So, you know, I'm constantly always asking people, you know, whether it's fighting, whether it's a gun, whatever it is, you know, anytime you have to go to a place where you have to defend yourself and you're paid to go into a cage where you have to defend and exercise offense on somebody, you have to have a certain mental switch, a mental trigger. And some people that comes easily because maybe they grew up like the fucking Joker, or maybe a lot of them did. And some guys came from a structured household, but they still have that switch. They have that kill switch that they can turn on and turn off. As you get older, you learn how to balance it. So I know what you're saying about understanding the balance. You kind of start to understand life a little differently. And I'm not saying there's an off switch, but there's, you know, the ability to mitigate it and understand sometimes the best bad boys move in silence, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, especially in the day and age where, you know, she is kind of taking over her. They do all this nasty stuff. You know, for me, like, when you do that, like, you automatically stepped over the line of, like, you and I are two competitors. Like, you say something negative about my family or people I care about, like, I don't want to just hurt you in the cage. Like, I want to hit you after the fight too, you know? There's like I want to take things from you that, you know what I mean? Like, you've irritated me beyond that point. So, I mean, the dynamic today is so odd to me. You know, these guys, you know, there's no way if anybody says anything like that to me, like, they're going to get away with it. Like, I'm getting in a fight in the back with them the first time I see them. And that's the hard part, you know what I mean? You gotta be, you know, you gotta be this absolutely trained killer, you know, all the time. I have to, like, shut it off and you know, be a part of a show the rest of the time. And
now you're referring to the gimmick guys.
Oh yeah.
And I know exactly what you mean. I've had Colby Covington on. So I know exactly what you mean.
Everything I heard about him, he's a pretty nice guy.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
When you get him off, you know, he's amazing. And I get it, and I understand the shtick, right? It's what you're getting at is the shtick real, or is it, you know, a shtick? Because you can respect. I think you can respect a shtick. I loved Ric Flair, but it was a shtick. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, I talked about this with other fighters I had on. Do you feel like you almost have to have a shtick to be? Like, you don't want to fall into that trap of being like an Usman that maybe he doesn't draw because he's very dry. You know what I'm saying? He just goes out there and does his work. But I also feel that over time, you go out and you just do your work, you're going to earn the respect, you're going to earn the gate, you're going to earn that, but it's going to take a little bit longer, right?
Right. Yeah, and, you know, I'm willing to do part of the show, but there's also, you know, lines that I just won't cross.
Of course.
You know, and I think that we don't really, there's no like written rule about, you know, the respect that we got to have for one another as competitors. And it's just a lot of the stuff really it rubs me the wrong way. And it's given the, you know, the kids of, you know, the next generation MMA fighters just this backwards, upside down view of what you're supposed to be as an athlete. You know what I mean? They see guys, you know, doing that shit, and they think that's what they need to do. They don't understand that it's a show, and, you know, it's you're setting a really bad example for the kids that are coming up. You know what I mean? They think they need to be these idiot bad boys, when really it's the guys that are the most put together that do the best in MMA.
I think you earn a shtick.
Yeah,
you got to earn it. Like you can be like I think people respect Cowboy, right? Like, over time.
Yep.
You know, he's an outdoorsman. People know that. He hunts, he shoots. You know what I mean? That's his thing.
Yeah.
He's, you know, he wants to come off as a guy who walks out of the woods and fights, right? Yep. And that's cool.
Which is badass.
Badass. So I think people can respect kind of that type of, you know, approach to it. But then, like you said, there's a point where it gets weird. And I think too many guys don't earn it. They just come out of the gate with it, you know, and they're
trying
like
too hard.
Yeah.
They're trying too hard.
They're trying way too. They're like the kid at the party that just, you know, everybody's just hanging out, maybe smoking a little weed, and someone has to show up with heroin and ruin it. It's just, there's always that guy.
There's always that guy.
There's always that guy. So you get into the UFC, at what point, or maybe it's before the UFC, at what point do you realize I can do that? Like, I can make money doing this. Like, there has to be like a click moment.
Yeah, I think it was after I beat this kid named Tom Duquesnoy. I was like a 3-1 underdog, and I just went out and whooped his ass. And it was like, this guy was like the #1 prospect in all of MMA, not just my weight class. So, when I beat him, I was like, man, that was not a fight I was supposed to win. And after that, I'm like, dude, who's really, really gonna beat me? You know what I mean? Who can beat me today? If I'm really looking at like my capabilities, like there's a handful of guys in the world that can beat me today, but in 2 years, are those guys going to be able to beat me? And I'm at the point now where it's just about who shows up on fight night. I think I could beat any guy in the world at this point. It's just about showing up, with the absolute best version of myself on that night, and that's hard to do. That's hard to do consistently. So I look at my MMA career now, and I'm like, man, this shit just started. I'm just now starting to make some real money, and now is when shit really matters. Because this is the opportunity, this is the time when I can actually, change my life and do some real shit with this.
Do you feel like you're hitting your stride now, or do you feel like your best is yet to come?
I think there's definitely, there's always room for improvement, right? You can always be better in a lot of ways, but I'm definitely kind of becoming the athlete, in the next couple of years. I think I'll definitely peak. I'll be the best athlete I can be. It's just about peaking at the right time, getting the right fights and making shit happen. Like I said, there's got to be a little bit of a gimmick. I'm going to have to play the game a little bit. Daniel Cormier said it best. He said, you're just playing a game. Mm-hmm. You're just a character playing
100%.
A game, but it's got to be genuine. Like I said, you can't force that shit. You look like an idiot, like a lot of these guys are doing, and it's short lived. You know what I mean? You fizzle out when you're like that. People see that ungenuine shit, and it doesn't last.
Yeah, I think your shtick comes, like I said, you earn a shtick, whatever that is, and it is who you are. It's a part of who you are. I started a show because I was a blabbermouth. I like to talk, so I like to bullshit. So a show made sense for me. It made sense for me to have a fucking podcast because I would get on the phone with all these really cool people, and I would talk to them, and I was like, I got to record this shit. Like, this is some pretty cool fucking people. Yeah. And I'd have some cool talks with people about business and life, and I was like, if I just start recording this would be fun. And I think, that's where it becomes genuine. And my attitude is my attitude, and I think that's universally known in the gun business is probably as well as the fight world too. Or at least the jiu-jitsu world. My attitude is what it is. But I think people start to respect it if it's genuine. Yep. And if there's passion behind it, because there's a fine line behind passion, what's real, and what isn't passion, and what can come across as too shticky. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's an important line to draw. So when you're preparing yourself, it seems like you've had some mental coaching because you have a good, disposition about where you're at, where you want to be, and where you want to go. So when you're developing yourself, I don't want to talk about the fighting because I know you train your ass off. How much goes into the mental conditioning and just the overall, I don't want to say spirituality of it. You know what I'm trying to say, Cody? Like getting your mind right to take these leaps.
Yeah, dude, honestly, the more you learn and the more you study MMA, it's about the guys that are most mentally sound that really, really make shit happen, because there's a lot of pressure. You're literally putting your life, not necessarily your life, but your career on the line in front of millions of people.
Your health, for sure.
Yeah, your health, everything. You know what I mean? So if you're not sharp, if you got doubts about what's going on, it's gonna come out. Like, that shit comes out.
100%.
It's the realest place in the world, in the cage. You know what I mean? That's like you can't fake it. You absolutely can't fake that, because there is a guy that's trying to hurt you, and he's been working his ass off to do just that. So it's the realest thing in the world, and it's just about finding ways to deal with the pressure and being comfortable in those uncomfortable places. And it's just about feeling like it's just another day. For me, like when I'm performing my best, I'm not really thinking about anything. You know what I mean? I'm just a raw athlete going out there to compete and just win, whatever it takes to win. And 99% of the time I can make shit happen in the cage, no matter what. And if I have the conditioning, I'll figure out how to win. When you put me in there, I'll just figure it out. And I have that confidence just because I was 10-0 in amateur boxing, and I had 20 amateur MMA fights. So I'm I'm 60 fights deep in, competitive combat experience. So I've been in those dark places. I've been losing. You know what I mean? I've been winning. I know the feeling. It's familiar to me. So, it's just about kind of trusting yourself and just being like, all right, when I have to be a dog, like I'm going to make that shit happen.
Now, coming from boxing, I was going to get into this, and I'm glad you brought it up. How much thought went into figuring out your weight class in the UFC? Was it just like, this is what I'm going to be? Or did you kind of sit back and do a little bit of an analysis, look at the cards,
Yeah, I mean, so I cut a shit ton of weight. I'm probably sitting in this chair at 170 pounds.
Because you're a stout dude.
Yeah, I fight at 135, so it's a nightmare getting down there, and that's like probably the hardest part for me is the diet, because I'm like a fat kid at heart. Like I don't like eating like that, and that's like eating like a fucking rabbit for months at a time, and that's brutal. But it's just about the size, like it's evolved so much. These guys at 45 are just so huge. They're so much. They're 5'10", and they're doing the same shit I'm doing. You know what I mean? They're 190 pounds and they're cutting 45 pounds to make weight. It's crazy, and it's just getting worse. Guys are just finding better ways to dehydrate themselves, and there's a whole science behind it. And I'm pretty dialed in. I've done it a million times. I mean, it hurts. It sucks. It's the most miserable thing.
I was talking about this with Bo Sandoval.
It's the absolute most miserable thing you could ever do. I mean, it's like you can drink water, you can eat, but you can't because you got to make weight. So it's like literally you're sitting there, you're so dehydrated, and there's a water bottle sitting in front of you, and you can't touch that thing before you get on the scale, dude. It is the darkest thing.
I can't imagine. Dude, I can't wrap my head around it because I struggled to get to 242 to compete in powerlifting meets.
It's fucking miserable. It's miserable. I mean, anybody that's cut a lot of weight knows, like, there are so, like, that's where most guys quit. That's where most guys give up. You see guys not making weight. You think, like, one of the things you can do to piss the UFC off is not make weight. That's
right.
Like half your
100%.
job. Half your job. And like, when you get to those dark places and your body's dehydrated and everything in your body's telling you, like, dude, get out of this fucking sauna or get out of this bathtub or stop working out, like, that's where you see a lot of guys quit. I've seen grown men, I mean hard grown men, hard professional fighters that had hard lives quit, and like that was their opportunity, you know what I mean? And everything, they had everything lined up, and they quit before they got on the scale because that shit hurts. I
want to ask you, how much weight do you put on from when you weigh in to when you hit the ring? Is it like 5 pounds or 10? Can you put on a lot more?
25 pounds normally. I'm usually 160 the day of the fight.
And that's like a trick of the trade too, is being able to cram on the weight, and it's a balance too, because then you get sluggish. I used to go through that with powerlifting, so it's like you weigh in the night before, you come in as a 242, which is where you want to be, but then you don't want to come in sluggish the next day and not be able to move the weight because you're just so bloated and everything else.
Right. You got to eat the right amount, you got to drink the right amount, you got to get your workouts in the morning. I mean, there's a whole system. I could fucking write a book just on how to cut weight.
You can make millions if you can come up with a good formula. I mean, guys are doing it. It's just, fuck my life. It is hard. That's the hardest part of it, and that's probably,
it's the part no one sees.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They don't understand. They're like, I don't understand. Fucking fat ass didn't make weight. I'm like, dude, it's
the hardest thing in any training is diet.
Don't eat and drink for a few days, and then, like, if you can do that, you cannot eat, you cannot drink, and you can lose 20 pounds in 24 hours. Then, maybe then you can talk shit about cutting.
And then there's doing it the right way.
Yeah.
Which takes so much calculation, and
I mean, you got to be dialed in. You got to know exactly how much you're eating. 2 months out, I know exactly how much I'm eating. 2 weeks before the fight, I know exactly where my weight has to be. In the PI, that's one of the reasons I moved to Vegas, is because they take all the kind of the legwork out of it. I did everything by myself. I did all my strength conditioning.
Yeah,
by
Bo's
myself.
like a wizard.
Yeah, Bo's amazing. I work with a guy named Kyle Larimer. He's a great dude too. That whole staff though. I mean, I've never heard anyone say anything negative about the PI because they care about the athletes. They're fucking great. I mean, they're amazing. Everyone there is amazing. I mean, that place is like tailored to see you succeed. It's awesome.
It's amazing to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of them sprout up. I think Dana's going, and I think the UFC's going in the right direction. I want to say just Dana, the whole team's going in the right direction with those. I'd like to see one in Miami in that area eventually, because I think that area needs it, and I think it can be
many guys
and I think they have to come up with some system when you retire that you still have access to it, that you can still get some treatments available made.
Because you're gonna be fucked up. But that's the thing for me too, is like, so I had to pull out of a fight against a guy, and I hurt my shoulder, and it was like fuck, you know what I mean? I invested so much into that fight. You know, you invest a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I moved to Colorado. I was there for a month, and then I got hurt like a week before the fight, and it was fucking awful. And I tore my shoulder apart, and I came here to rehab, and like I saw how good they were here, and I'm like, man,
I gotta live here.
Why the fuck wouldn't I live here? You know what I mean? I literally have a benefits package with the UFC, and this is the benefits package. You know what I mean? And these people actually give a shit, and they're really good at their job. I'm like, why the hell do I not use this every day? So, I mean, it's not only is moving here about, you know, my health and you know, my window's closing every day, so I got to be healthy.
And I think, you know, at some point in a fighter's lifespan, and by lifespan I mean his competing span, I think you have to live in Vegas at some point. Could you get away with like an LA? Yeah, okay, and you could commute over. But I think at some point you have to do I call it the Vegas thing. I think it's you just have to do that. I think there's just too much to being soaked into the environment that's here. You can go to an open mat for jiu-jitsu and be around some of the best competitors. You can go to fucking sparring down at Extreme and be around some of the best strikers. So you have such a melting pot, whereas if you're in Idaho or wherever, you might have one or two guys that are worth your time to get time with, especially at your level.
I did it in Michigan. You know, in Michigan, I had amazing coaches. You know, I was one of the best, if not the best guy in the gym all the time. But that's just part of it. You know what I mean? That's at this level, that's just part of it. You know, I had 2-3 guys that I trusted that were talented enough to get me where I needed to go. I had coaches that were talented enough, you know, still, you know, maybe the best coaches that I ever worked with. But it was like, you know what I mean? I didn't have the whole package, and it was a pain in the ass going from this gym to that gym to this gym to that gym. You know, it was just a lot of work to get the amount of work that I could get here going to 2 places. You know what I mean? So here, things are a lot easier. Everything's more structured. You know, you have that. You know, I feel like my shit's together here. You know, I have a strict schedule to where, like, when you're at home, you're kind of making your own schedule. You're doing everything by the fly. And if you want to compete, you know, at the absolute best level, you need money like Conor McGregor, so you can just fly everyone and their fucking brother into your training camp, or you need to be somewhere where these guys already are. You know what I mean?
Right.
Save your money.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, to save your money's, we could spend all day on that. That's another podcast. Yeah. But you know, for the most part, your approach has put you in the position that you're in, which is a position to be successful for a run here, to put a run together. That's the whole idea. Yep. And along the way, you know, the UFC is the UFC. There's going to be ups and downs, but you had a tremendous you know, war, and I want to talk. I can't glaze over UFC 250. You lose your brother, which is insane to be able to function that day, and you step in the ring and you take care of business. I know you talked about a post-fight, and I don't want to make this, you know, emotional for you, but I can't imagine what you went through, the mindset going through that day and being able to approach your work. And it says a lot about who you are and honoring him the way that you did, and just the way that you handled yourself. You know, I'm sure it was an emotional dump from your heart and your brain throughout that entire day. I couldn't imagine getting through that, and I don't know how you did, you know, the toughness that it took. I mean, what was going through your head that whole day?
I mean, you know, I look back at my old man. You know, he's the kind of guy that, like, I watched that man smash his hand with a hammer one day at work. I mean, like, literally smash his hand, bone sticking out of his finger, and, like, take duct tape and just, like,
back to
duct
work.
tape his hand. And, like, he was swinging a hammer 5 minutes later. Like, as soon as he get the blood to stop, like, he just, you know, went back to work. And, like, that's the kind of hard-ass motherfucker I grew up with. You know what I mean? He was just, like,
take care of your business.
Take care of your shit. That's all there is to it. Like, you're a man. You don't get to fucking cry. You don't get to be a baby. You don't get to, you know what I mean? Like, you want to be a man, you got to act like a man. And, like, that was kind of, like, how I was brought up. So, I mean, for me, there was never like a option, you know, in my manager and the UFC, they're like, hey, listen, if you don't want to fight, we understand. Like, we 100% get it. Like, you're going through some shit. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like, I still got a fucking job to do. You know what I mean? And not only that, but like, you know what, like, I need something, you know, I'm going to some dark places. I need something to lift me up. You know? So honestly, the fight was the absolute best thing in the world. It was, you know, after the fight, that shit got hard. You know, obviously, you know, leading up to the fight, you know, I was a mess, but I was holding it together. You know, I knew I had a job to do, and, you know, I kind of, you know, shut everything off, you know, for at least 48 hours, you know, leading up to that fight. And then obviously you saw afterwards, I'm fucking crying on national television because, like, you know, all those emotions that it's
an emotional dump. It's just a dump.
Yeah, I've been turning all those emotions off, and, you know, like, when the fight was over, everything kind of hit me. It's like, fuck, dude. You know, you just performed really well, and you had a fight, but dude, like, the reality sets in. It's like your brother just died, and like all this, you know, you get this rush of shit hits you, and it's like, oh my god, like, and then, you know, I got to go home and I got to, you know, do the funeral. I got to do all that stuff. I got to see my family. I got to talk about it, and that's when shit got hard for me. I mean, honestly, like, it was the weeks following, you know what I mean, when I didn't have anything to think about, nothing to focus on, and then, you know, like, I don't like being sad. I don't like being in those dark places, you know. So the UFC calls and they're like, "Hey, you know, do you want to fight again?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to." You know what I mean? I wanted to distract myself, and obviously I went out and was flat, and I didn't have the same, you know, mojo that I had before. And I think a lot of it was because, you know, I was still, you know, emotionally drained, battling these fucking demons. Like, I didn't give my mind time. You know what I mean? I was just asking too much of myself, and that's just. You know, that's just me trying to run away from my problems, and, you know, like, eventually, you know, you sweep things under the rug. That shit comes up.
I think eventually, and it doesn't matter if it's UFC, you know, whatever sport you're in, especially when it's a singular sport, whether it's boxing, you know, competitive jiu-jitsu, whatever it is. You reach a point in your career, and I think to an extent John Jones does this. Of course he does. But, you know, you pick your spots, right? You reach a point when you get to a point in the rankings where you're kind of picking your spots. And you're kind of reaching that point where you got to kind of be aggressive, but pick your battles. I mean, we see George doing that right now, you know, Masvidal. Georgie's doing that, you know, because he knows his meal ticket is only in so many fights right now. He hit a high that we all can only hope to hit, right? And he knows where the money is and where the fight money is going to be. So he goes into a situation with Usman that's a win-win situation for him, really, in so many ways. And
it's a lose-lose for Usman, though.
It's a lose-lose for Usman, right? So you have to fight and scratch and claw to get in that position. Maybe it's 2 fights from now. Maybe it's 1 fight from now. Maybe you're close to it now. You got to get that label of being dangerous, of being a guy that not a lot of people want to come after, but also have that fine line of being able to kind of find the fights that are going to help move you up the ladder, because
you got to be political now.
You got to be political now.
I'm at the point where I have to be political. You know what I mean? I got to pick the right fights at the right time. Everything's got to line up exactly the way it has to be. Nothing can be rushed. Everything has to be planned months in advance. You know, I'm realizing I'm getting to that point, and, you know, obviously I have a lot of good people around me to help me and help make decisions. You know, people that I trust that, you know, that weigh in on these things. So I'm confident moving forward that, you know, I'm going to make the right decisions and do the right shit. It's just, you know, like, I have to open my eyes up and be like, dude, you're fucking there. Like, you're in the deepest division in the UFC. You know what I mean? There's like 5 or 6 UFC champions just in my weight class. You know, some of these guys they're ranked below me.
100%.
You know, so, you know, I'm in a good spot, and, you know, moving forward, it's gonna be pretty lucrative.
Yeah, I would definitely say your division and welterweight division are fucking stacked.
They're fucked up.
Now you got, you know, Cody No Love coming out of the fucking woodwork. You got, you know, Jose Aldo. It's loaded. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of killers. There's room to navigate, but it's just one fucking false.
There's no easy fights.
There's no easy fights.
There's no easy fights. Like, every single one of those guys can shut your lights off, and, you know, it's like I said, it's just about being sharp that day. You better have your shit together when you get in there.
Selfishly, I'd love to see you and Cody.
Yeah, I mean, it'll happen. It'll happen eventually.
Selfishly.
I don't know if it'll be next, but yeah.
Because you're both fucking warriors.
Garbrandt and I are going to end up in the cage together. Who knows when that happens, but hopefully it's for for a lot of money under the best circumstances.
Yeah, he would draw a nice payday, and that would be a fucking war.
Yeah.
No doubt. Now, I got to ask a fun question. You come from a boxing background. You're in the UFC. It can be one of each or either or. What would your all-time dream fight be? Stay in your weight class. Don't get crazy, but like relatively close to your weight class.
Boxers?
Yeah. It could be all through history. Like, don't get weird and say Bruce Lee, but like.
Hey, we're not going to get the Bruce Lee debate. I don't think Bruce Lee would even shake a stick at the guys that can fight now. But I'm pissing people off saying that. But,
No.
I mean, ultimately, like, the guy was, I don't know, he's irrelevant. I would probably say Floyd. I'd want to fight Floyd Mayweather.
That would be a fun
he's
one.
Literally, he's probably smaller than me. Honestly, he's probably smaller than I've seen him. He's not a big dude. I mean, if you're gonna go fight a boxer, you want to fight the fucking quote unquote greatest of all time. So it's definitely gonna be Floyd.
Yeah, my problem is my fucking weight class. I'd end up having to fight Tyson. I'd get killed.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, and then, you look at the UFC, the history's there now. There's been enough guys through the system. There has to be somebody that you look back on and you're like, maybe if I could do it in a video game, this guy would be fucking cool to fight.
Faber.
Yeah.
Faber. I mean, I tried to fight him. I know him. I like him. Like, we're friends. I mean, I saw him on Fight Island. We hung out. I mean, we talked shit to each other. He told me he was going to kick my ass if we ever fought, and I told him there's no fucking way. But Faber's the guy that I've always wanted to fight because he was like the first. He's like the OG of the.
Is he the best to never win a belt?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, he finished a lot of guys. I mean, I don't think he got enough credit. Like,
I don't know. Benavidez may be making a claim for that now too.
Benavidez too. And those guys came up together. Like, those are the guys, like, you get in a fight with one of those guys, like, you're getting in a real fucking fight. You know what I mean? Like, Joe Benavidez, I feel like you hit that guy with a board, he's just going to get
I think when it's said and done, if Joe doesn't get it, and I say this, and I consider Joe a friend, I mean, if he doesn't get it, I think Joe will go down. Because I know Faber's had that title for a while. Yeah. I think Joe would supplant him. He's not as vocal, but...
Joe's just one of those guys, like, Joe's one of those guys, you just want to see Joe do well. You know what I mean? Just because he's like...
He's just been number 1 or 2 for so fucking long.
Yeah, and honestly, like, you talk to him, he's a fucking great dude. He's an interesting dude. He's a passionate dude, and he's just a fun guy to be around. He's just a good person, Like, those are the kind of people you want to see win. And I absolutely fucking love Joe. I love that guy to death. He's a good dude.
What do you think of the Tyson fight?
Oh, man.
That's amazing to me.
I mean,
I grew up with those two guys, and I could flip a coin as to who I liked more.
Yeah, dude, I used to love watching Roy Jones Jr. highlights. That guy's a freak athlete. But there's two things. Like, as a fan, I'm like, dude, I can't wait to watch these guys fight. But I would have liked to have seen it 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now that we're seeing it, it's like...
You think they're going to go at it legit? Maybe for a round, I said.
I don't know, man. I really have no idea how that happens. I mean, I think Roy Jones Jr. has been hit, too much. And God, I hate fucking saying that because, I'm such a big fan of both of them. But, you like, these guys, I just don't like seeing them fighting this late in their careers. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. I don't know though, Craig. I think there's something to be said about the exhibition because I think it's a cool model. Because I think the undercard will be fun. You got some, like, social media bullshit people in there. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I think that there's a fun component.
It's going to be fucking huge. It's going to be huge. I mean, like, you can't not watch it. You know what I mean? And that's, like, the whole, like, these guys are...
You have to root for it because it gives guys a path to make money later on.
Yep.
So like, 5-10 years, you might be able to have a fun fight that you never thought of. At the end of the day, it just depends how hard those guys are going to go at it in the ring. And they're way past their prime, but it's still fun to see.
Yeah.
So
they're still, you know what I mean? Like, these guys didn't forget how to box, And
you just hope that they don't take care of each other too much. You still see enough.
I don't think Tyson has that in him. Like,
I don't think he has 8 rounds in him.
No, I watched Tyson in an exhibition bout where he was, like, boxing some basketball player or something, and he straight fucking dropped the dude with the right hand in, like, 30 seconds. Stuck this dude with a hard right hand. And dropped him, and then he was like, "Oh shit, oh, whoops, I didn't mean to do that." But I just think Tyson's one of those guys that every time you put gloves on him, he just goes to these dark places and he wants to fucking hurt people. You know what I mean? I don't think he knows anything else. And Roy's more of a finesse guy. You know what I mean? He's not really he's not fighting out of anger. Like, he's just having fun in there. He's a fucking athlete. you know, but is he still the athlete that he was? I mean, that fight.
The
It's
thing,
gonna be fucking awesome to watch.
the thing with Tyson, and I explained it to people. I grew up in the era of Tyson.
Yeah.
Like that was my time. I'm 39,
so it was a fucking era too.
And I try to explain to people, he was shot out of a cannon.
Yeah.
He literally, like, you know, people who talk shit about like Wayne Gretzky because like they say he played in the dead goalie era. There wasn't like any studs. This is the thing. He beat everybody in front of him.
Yep.
Now, as he got later in his career and he had no more mountains to conquer, he did himself in, really, ultimately. But he was a guy, the term like talent doesn't come to mind. You say more, you know, ferociousness, just fear. And he was a guy, like, he beat people before they got in the ring. And that's a fair statement. Like, he mentally beat you before he got in the ring because he was so feared and so ferocious. When you really looked at it and you looked at him next to Lennox Lewis or next to Evander Holyfield, they had all the qualities that made them better fighters overall. But he was just so ferocious, and I think eventually that ferociousness caught up to him and people developed a game plan that could beat him. Now, Roy Jones, talent always comes to mind because of how fucking talented he was. He could fight in any division. He was absolutely scary throwing hands. He had defense, which, you know, was amazing. You know, he had so much going for him, and it's going to be interesting. I would have loved, like you said, to see that in its prime because it would have been amazing. Whether or not, you know, I don't know. I in their primes, I would have leaned more towards Tyson just because the punching power would have probably been too much for Roy Jones to overcome, even though he did win a heavyweight belt, albeit against a Ruiz that wasn't that caliber of fighter.
He wasn't a Tyson or Holyfield.
He wasn't a Tyson or a Holyfield, but now I don't know if he can reclaim a tenth of that speed and get in and get out. It might be a fun exhibition to watch and see how much he can play with him. But you go watch those Roy Jones clips. He toyed with motherfuckers.
Dude,
I mean,
he was literally like, there's a clip I watched where they were talking about how he was late for his arrival time because he was playing basketball all day and just forgot that he had to go get in a fight. When you like. Can you imagine how fucking good you have to be like, dude, I got a multi-million-dollar fight tonight for the title, for everything I worked for my whole life, and like you're too wound up playing a game of fucking basketball that day, and you people are like, dude, where the fuck are you? He's like, oh shit, I was playing basketball. I kind of forgot. I was, I lost track of time. Like he knew he was going to beat you.
Like when I debate with
when
I debate with my good friends, like Real World Tactical, Tony Stamann, the guys out there, Ruben Alvarez, I say all the time, Roy Jones Jr. was the best fighter of my generation, hands down. If you're saying fighter, scariest human being is Mike Tyson. There's no question.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wouldn't even look Tyson in the eyes.
Scariest human being. But that's going to be fun. Now, on another note, we got to get to your hometown. And what a fucking mess it is. We're not making it political, but we got to get to Detroit. We got to talk about Michigan. What's going on there? What the fuck is going on?
Fucking
what are they doing in that state that I'm missing? What is happening?
Dude, the thing is, that don't make sense because I grew up in like a rural country town, like I don't know, and like I didn't even realize Michigan was there were so many pussies in Michigan. I didn't even understand, I've never given a shit about politics. I've never, you know what I mean? Like I don't know enough about it to sit and debate anybody on it. I can't have a political debate. I don't I'm not an expert in it. Like you want to talk about fighting, I can talk about it for 3 days.
But it seems like such a working class culture.
It doesn't make sense to me. Like the fact that it doesn't make sense that we're a blue state to me. You know what I mean? Like where I grew up, it's rural, it's country, it's like homegrown, hardworking, blue collar people, and like even in Detroit, like blue collar factory workers, like these are the kind of people that I knew, and like it just didn't seem like I had no idea that we were like so soft, and it kind of sucks being from Michigan, seeing the way that shit is happening there. It's like what the fuck are you doing? Like what are we doing? But you can say that about the whole country right now. You know what I mean? Like people are just off their fucking rocker. Like what in the hell are you doing? Like what are you opposing? What are you like?
I don't think they know, Cody.
What are you fucking standing for? Like what are you honestly standing for? What are you like? You're literally running around ruining small businesses. People that whether they came to the country for a better life or, you know what I mean? It's a you know, say I work for a family business. Like someone shows up at our, you know what I mean, and tries to burn our building down. Like I can't even fathom that. I can't fathom, like, you know what I mean? Like we're not talking about like upper echelon wealthy people that are doing this. It's like, dude, I want to just be like, dude, like we're all poor. You know what I mean? Like it's not to me, it's not like a black versus white thing. It's like a rich versus poor thing, but instead it's like poor versus poor. You know what I mean? It's like you have, you know what I mean? Like one side, you know, young poor people ruining other, you know, poor people's lives. It's like you guys like probably all went to high school together. What the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you burning my fucking house down?
You know, I think, you know, it's not about politics so much as it's about culture, and I think that, you know, the country itself needs to take a big step back and unfuck itself. And I've said this many times. You have a tremendous growth in what we started calling Karen culture, where it's like, you know, anything to bitch about, you're going to bitch about just to bitch, right? Just to be heard. And when you're not heard, you're going to scream as loud as you can, stomp your feet. And that's just not reality. That's not how life works. That's not how capitalism works. That's why you have these people out there that it's no longer, and I said this to Tom DeBlas, it's no longer if you can't beat him, join him. It's if you can't beat him or join him, smear him and smash him and put him down any way that you can. And I don't operate that way. I prefer to operate in how I get to know somebody, how they treat me, how I feel about them. And regardless of political disposition, to me, I don't think these people even are Democrats. But the problem is that party is being pushed so far down a cliff that they don't even know their own identity anymore. And they're going into these towns, these great working class towns like Detroit. They're going into these cities like Seattle, and they're tearing them apart. And there's nobody to blame but the mayors or the governors. And the culture right now in the country is so pussified that, you know, you can't even say to somebody, hey, man, you know, Cody, I disagree with that point. I don't agree with... You can't even say that anymore and have an educated conversation or a dialogue about it because somebody has to stomp their feet. The desire to be right outweighs all fucking common sense, and that goes completely out the window, and it turns into a shape spiral all the way down. We're literally allowing people to fucking march in someone's house, kidnap their kids, rape their daughter, you know, steal everything in the house, and there's no consequences, there's no repercussions. They're pouring buckets of water and fucking gasoline on cops, and they don't even care. There's nothing that gets said. I just bring up Michigan because I look at that state. I love my Ford. I love cars, you know. I look at that as such a working class, blue collar state. You embody that. I know you're proud that you're from there. Your fucking nickname was Spartan. I went to high school that was the mascot, so I can respect that. But what the fuck, you know, what is wrong with the value set when you go to the polls and you elect these people or you put these people in charge that proliferate this type of behavior or allow it to happen, and everybody sits back? I think the UFC stands to benefit tremendously from this because I see Major League Baseball, WNBA, NBA, all these different pro sports leagues going down the fucking toilet because everybody has to walk around and say, "Oh no, it's my fault. I'm sorry. I'm a male. I'm white. I'm sorry. I should give you $50." Like, what the fuck is going on?
Dude, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. And I think a lot of it starts with, like, people are just, in general, they're weak. You know what I mean? Like like you were saying, like, they can't take the opposition. You can't disagree with them. Like, you and I could disagree fundamentally on a million things.
100 times.
But it wouldn't affect, like, how much I respect you as a man. You know what I mean? Like, and with everyone, you know what I mean? Like, you know, my best friends back home, like, we shoot the shit. We talk a ton of shit to each other, but no one's getting offended. You know what I mean? Like, I might
100%.
take personal shots at someone's life. Like, I told my best friend, I was like, dude, honestly, I'd be like, he just had a kid, and I told him, I was like, dude, this kid doesn't look anything like you. I don't think it's yours. You know what I mean? And that's like a funny joke, but God, if I said that to somebody, like,
oh my God,
oh, dude, it'd be a fucking.
We need to have a meeting and a panel.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It'd be an outrage, and it's just a soft culture of people who literally can't stand not to get their way. Like I just feel like maybe if a lot of these people, if their dad would have stepped up and kicked their ass when they were a kid, you know, I think it would go a long ways because, you know, I'm looking at these people, they have no idea the consequences to their action. You know what I mean? Like, nobody told them no when they were a kid.
Well, the schoolyard mentality, Cody's lost.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No more like, hey, you know what? Let's go settle
It's a
this.
dying breed.
It's over.
Yep.
Now it's my daddy, my mommy. I'll call this one.
Call my dad on you.
Yeah, I'll call my daddy on you.
It
will sue you. There's no more understanding of.
There's no more men.
There's no more men. And social media is an interesting thing. There's great that comes out of it, and there's bad that comes out of it. You know, you have so many people that take shots from the cheap seats that don't fully. They're not even. I don't even want to give them too much credit because they're not even in the fight. They're not even in the argument. They're not even making a case. They're not even saying anything. And it's okay to not be political. It's okay to not be someone that, you know, has an opinion on those things. For years, Michael Jordan didn't, you know, recently has. But I just think, you know, people have to look at the facts and stop diluting the bullshit and spreading it out and trying to smear it on everybody's face. And that's what it is. It's bullshit. There's not a person that doesn't condemn what happened in Minnesota, and there's not a person that doesn't disagree with that. But now you have hundreds and hundreds of people, whether it's in Chicago, Seattle, Detroit, dying every weekend. I mean, they're talking about babies getting hit with stray bullets. It's fucking insane to me. And I ask you, because you grew up in that Detroit environment, It's just, I see a state there that's ripe to have a shift, because recently there was the guy who confronted Biden on the gun laws that you know, he confronted him at a thing in Michigan, and he said, you know, you're anti-gun, and I work in, you know, in the machinery there. He was working in a factory. It wasn't a car factory though. That was printed originally, but it wasn't. But he came out, and I'm like, all these guys are pro 2A guys, working class guys. They seem like good. Like, what the fuck are they doing at the poll?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. And the social media, I think, has given like these idiots like a platform to like complain where they're never going to be.
There's no repercussion.
Do you have any idea how many fucking little idiot kids, like I'm talking about like 14 to 18-year-old kids that come on and slide into my DMs and tell me I'm a pussy?
Oh, 100%.
And I'm like, if you and I were standing face to face, and you could tell me that I was a pussy without trembling and like shitting your pants, I would be amazed, because I have a feeling that like in a social setting, like you're the weird kid in the back that doesn't say anything. You know what I mean? But like we've given them a platform to like bitch about stuff they really have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. You know what I mean? They're not even old enough to understand the world, and you know they're out there, you know, just like when I was 21 years old. Like, I didn't have a fucking clue. You know what I mean? I didn't have a fucking clue. Like, I didn't have a clue how the world worked. I didn't have a clue. I wasn't mature enough to make these damn decisions. You know what I mean? And, like, these 21-year-old kids are, you know, they have masks on, and they're throwing rocks at the cops. Like, that is just fucking insane.
Doing whatever they want.
Just doing whatever they want. And, I mean, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt and be like, oh, you know, it's just like this rebellious, this phase that they're going through. They're just fucking dumb. They don't even understand the consequences of their action. But this isn't, you know, like they went and TP'd their neighbor's house, you know what I mean? Or they backtalked their mom. Like, this is real shit, and these real idiots have a voice, you know what I mean? Like, they've collaborated. There's a group of them, and these idiots are following each other around, you know, aimlessly, thinking that they stand for something, and really all they're doing is destroying shit. They're not doing anything productive.
You know what it is. You know what's lost, and I think you grew up similar to how I grew up. Every now and then you had to catch a beating. Yeah. Every now and then when you came home, you had to catch a beating in the house. You know, it was like you knew you did something wrong that day. The phone call went home, whatever it was, or the cops showed up, and I was like, all right, it's time to catch the beating. Yep. I was just lucky that at like 16, I was like 240 pounds. I was the size I am now, so the beatings got a little easier to handle. But that's lost today. That is so gone. It's just, there's no repercussion anymore, and everybody wants to stomp their feet, and everybody wants to, you know, cry the blues, and everybody's over here and there, you know, saying I'm owed this and I'm owed that. And you as fighters, and I ask all you this, you guys come up like nobody owes you fucking anything.
No.
And that mindset is so valuable to have in life and business and everything, because it's the truth. When the music stops and there's no more chairs left, it's you got to deal with your own shit.
Yep.
And today it's a culture where, I don't have that 6-figure job, or I don't have, this big contract or whatever. I'm just going to go smash a Gucci store and take, 5 purses, like fuck everybody. You know what I mean? Or I'm just going to smash this guy's business. And it just doesn't, it makes me, for no reason, it makes no sense to me. And I hate to see it happen to Detroit, because it's one of my favorite working class cities. And I think, Michigan as a whole has such a great, rich outdoors culture. It has such a great hunting culture. And I just hate to see a state like that lost by the boards. Like you mentioned earlier that, it's a blue state. It shouldn't be in any stretch of the imagination, because some of the best outdoors in the country and some of the best, fish and game, and I know you're a big fisherman, is out in that area. It just fucking blows my mind.
Yeah, Michigan is a fucking awesome place to grow up. Michigan's an amazing place, and there's a lot of amazing, hardworking people in Michigan, and I love it. But like Detroit was honestly making a comeback. Detroit obviously hit some dark times, and it was on its way. There were a lot of people investing a lot of money to bring Detroit back to its former glory, and it was heading in the right direction. There were a lot of big businesses downtown. Like my brother, he worked downtown at Meridian Healthcare, and like I'd go down and see him, and like downtown Detroit was nice, and now we're like going back to the dark ages, and it's like, why, like what, why? You know what I mean? Like the people that like blue collar working class factory workers made Detroit what it is.
One of the great working class cities.
Yeah, I mean the automobile industry, it made it what it is. I mean, people that work 12-hour shifts 7 days a week for 30 fucking years, like those people built Detroit, and now they're retired there, and they're watching some dumb punk from down the road just like tear it down for no reason. Like he's just fucking bored. He's just bored, and he wants to stand for something, and this seemed like the easiest thing that he could go for.
It bothers me because when you're a fighter and a hard worker, you carry a certain amount in life too. You carry a certain amount of pride for where you're from. I know I do, being from Boston. You can't spend 20 minutes with me and not understand that, because it's just burned into my blood. We just win. I grew up in the Belichick era. There's so much about us that just wins, and we just go out of our way to try to operate under a certain mantra. Now, granted, it's a blue state, but I always tell people the same thing. You go north of Boston, you get into live free or die country in New Hampshire and in Maine. It's a whole different animal. So we're lucky in New England that we got half of it.
Yeah,
we kind of win in, and we're winning half, and we lose half, but split down the middle, you kind of have those limousine liberals in that Boston area, and then as you get to Connecticut and Rhode Island, it gets dicey, and you get a whole different breed. But at the end of the day, I just don't. I don't. Michigan is one I had to bring it up to you, because I just never. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
It doesn't make a lick of sense to me, and I didn't even really understand how bad Michigan was until I started seeing it on the news. Well, I'm not in Michigan. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my God, what in the fuck are we doing?
You escaped. That's a good thing.
I did escape, but honestly, like, still, I go back home and like I just don't see that. You know what I mean? Like, I live in a rural place. I live in the country. It's a farming town. Like, people just take care of their families, take care of their shit. They're good people. You know what I mean? They go to the bar on Friday night. They get shit faced, and they wake up Saturday morning and work a little bit. You know what I mean? They're just good, hardworking, blue collar American people that are just doing the absolute best they can by their family. You know what I mean? And like that's how I see Michigan. That's because that's how I grew up. Those are the people I surrounded myself with.
I love it.
I don't understand it. You know what I mean? I don't know what the fuck we're doing.
Where does it go from here for you in the UFC and in the fight game? What's the next step?
I'm gonna give myself a little time. I'm gonna give myself, I'm trying not to get too fat and too out of shape. I'll probably start working out again this week. And then, it's just about, like you said, making a run, picking the right fights, going after the right names at the right time. There's a list of guys. Everyone's like, who, as soon as your fight's over, it's like, well, who's your next fight? It's like, well,
right.
The thing is there's so much that goes into planning a fight. There's, especially with COVID and everything that's happening. You know what I mean? Like the guy you're fighting might not even, he might be in a state that's locked down. He can't even train the guy that you want to fight. So your options are a lot more scarce. I've been super fortunate to fight twice during all this bullshit. Thank God. Thank God for the UFC. You know what I mean? I still have a job, and a lot of people don't. So for me, it's going to be a timing thing. Like in a perfect world, I fight November, December, and it happens in Vegas. But who knows? Like, who knows what the dynamic looks like?
Right.
I got this weird feeling that COVID and everything kind of just dies after November.
So of course. Oh, yeah, that's a given.
This
Give me a break.
This weird gut feeling I have.
By Christmas, there's going to be no such thing.
Yeah, that shit will be, it'll be cured, and everyone will be fine.
It'll be cured. It'll
just disappear like fucking thin air, like Ebola.
It'll be something else.
Yeah,
it'll be another dossier. The thing is with you, I think it's a good time to go in the weeds. I think you've proven some key things, and I think the lingering effects of the emotion of 250 and just kind of going forward. I think it's a good time to, like you said, sit down, break out the pen and paper, break out the dry erase board, map out a plan, put a strategy together. Then you get back in the gym, you do your work, you dial in the diet, you dial in the mindset that you want, and you start to see a path. And that's something, I talk about with a lot of people as it pertains to business. I'm always like, you have to see a path. What's the path? Yep. And you have to start to form that. Well, if I do this and then this happens and then that happens and we can lead to this. But you kind of, you set up a snowball, of like A and B and C. And if B doesn't happen, maybe there's B minus over here. So you got to kind of lay out a path and stay on that track. And there's always bumps along the way. I mean, there's very few that are ever perfect. So you have to, especially in that division, you have to kind of begin. It's just a nightmare. It's murderer's row. So you have to start to see that path. And maybe, there's a home run along the way. Like I said, bringing up, Cody and some of the other guys in that division. But I think you are someone that I guess this is going to sound funny, but I spend a lot of time, thinking about the guests and the people I have on and having these conversations in my head. You're someone I don't worry about.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
The way you carry yourself, what I've heard about you, spending the time that I've already spent with you, I can get a good read on people. You just strike me as a guy who's going to handle his fucking business one way or the other.
Yeah, I'll take care of what I have to take care of. And you're right. I do have to lay out a plan.
And only you can do it.
Exactly. And what's crazy is, like, you get in the UFC and things move fucking fast. My buddy Darren, who's maybe has as many guns as you, fucking great dude. He's actually coming here this week for another one of our guys in Michigan. But
get him in.
He talks about how fast. He's like, dude, like, buckle up, because this ride it's fucking nuts, dude. Once things start moving, I've been in the UFC 3 years, but I feel like I made my debut a month ago. Like this stuff moves. So if you don't plan ahead, like if you don't have a plan, and you and your manager don't have some kind of, plan moving forward. I mean, my plan initially, being a naive kid, it was like, just fucking give me whoever.
Yeah, I think it always starts that way, and that's okay. Yeah. But I think, I think the more you mature, and as time goes on, and call this what you want to call it, I've sat with probably 30 or 40 fighters on this show. I think you have to put the onus on yourself to lay out the plan. Yep. And then I think the coaches come in and help you refine it. I think a lot of fighters out there put too much emphasis on the coaching to a point. And I don't mean this to take anything away from the coaches. I'm actually complimenting them. The coaches are there to kind of chip away the rough edges and refine it. You're already there. You're at the show. Yep. You know what I mean? Nobody was telling Derek Jeter or Manny Ramirez or David Ortiz, what, maybe a little tweak here, a little tweak there, but you're there, and you're already proven to be a stud. So it's just about, you got to lay it out as a businessman and say, guys, this is what I see. Tell me if I'm crazy. Let's go through the crazy test. Let me just show you this, and this, and this is what I'm thinking. And it's about getting your film right, studying your opponents. And I don't think enough guys place enough emphasis on that.
Dude, I'd study it religiously, religiously. And that's one place that we're kind of behind boxing. Like, boxers were boxing was so far evolved past MMA. And, like, we can learn a lot from the way they trained, the way they studied things, you know what I mean? Like, the way they structured their training camps, you know what I mean? You think that you just want to go to a big gym and you want to be a fly on the wall, and if you're there, you're going to get the work you need. I mean, yeah, you're going to get in shape, but, like, that's what you do when you're coming up. You
right.
know what I mean? Like, you go to the gym every day and you have something to prove. Well, I've already proved that I can fucking fight. You know what I mean? I fought the best guys in the world. Like, I know what I'm capable of. And now it's about being meticulous and organized because, you know, it's one thing to get here. It's another thing to stay here and compete and
thrive.
And thrive. You know what I mean? Because, like, I look at it like if you and I are going to, you know, sell water bottles and you lay out a business plan and you have like a you know what I mean, you spend 5 hours sharpening your axe and then you go cut the tree down, where I just go stand on the corner and like, hey, I got water bottles for sale. Like, who's gonna win in the long run? You know what I mean? It's gonna be you, because you know you formulated a plan and you had an idea of what you're doing, and that's, you know, exactly what you were saying, is that like I have to come up with, you know, like, obviously things change fast, things move fast. God knows what happens.
You got to put it on you, and that's why
it is on you. And that's like the one thing I fucking love about being a fighter, is that I 100% control everything that happens. You know what I mean? It's really easy for people, and maybe some of you fucking idiots can take something from this. Maybe these idiot kids that are out fucking burning shit down. Like, eventually, your life is 1,000% your responsibility. You can't blame your fucking parents. You can't blame your situation. You can't blame, you know, people that misled you in your life. Ultimately, like, you are the one that gets to make the choices to whether you succeed or whether you fail. And
it's true.
The hammer comes down on you, like 100%. Like, you are 100% responsible for succeeding or failing. It's not anyone's, you know what I mean? It's not like you put the people in your life to succeed. Like, you have the choice to, you know what I mean? Like, I can cut anybody out of my life and be like, fuck you, I don't need you. You know what I mean? Like, you got to make those tough choices. And, like, you know, I have, you know, a million tough choices to make all the time. But, fuck, I'm grateful, you know what I mean, that I'm even here, that I even get this opportunity to do this shit, you know? Like, everyone was talking, like, man, do you think it was kind of, you know, messed up? The UFC asked you to, you know, fight, you know, during all that, with everything happening with COVID and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, no, hell no, dude. Like, this is my fucking job. Like, dude, I'm thankful for the opportunity. I'm thankful that the UFC stepped up and was making shit happen and stayed out of the political side of things and just put, like, because, you know what I mean? Your window closes every day. We need to fucking fight. We need to make money. We need to support
100%.
ourselves, you know, and you know, if I get, you know what I mean, all I need is the fucking opportunity. You know what I mean? I'll do the rest, you know, and I'll do the legwork. You know, the UFC provides the platform and the opportunity for me to succeed and make a ton of money, and, you know what I mean? Like, try a different venture later in life. But, you know, like right now, you know, it's
use the vessel you have.
Exactly. Like, I'm on this ship, and I'm going to do the best I can with it.
And at the end of the day, I am super proud of the UFC and Dana, for they do stay tremendously out of the fuck. They went to an island. They stay out of the bullshit, and they let you guys have a place where you can go and fight.
Yeah,
and
they made that shit happen. I mean, like, a lot of guys were, you know, bitching and complaining about the hoops we had to jump through. I'm like, dude, you should just be fucking happy to be here. Like,
I think they could have played up the Kumite vibe a little bit more, but that's a different story. I think we could have seen,
dude, it's
some flaming torches and some ramps and some alligators. But that's
Fight Island is a trip.
That's
a trip.
I think
it's
I think they could have mucked it up a little bit more,
Yeah.
but that's just me
more of a show.
Wishing for some type of movie bullshit. But
Yeah.
listen, bro, it's been amazing having you.
I appreciate it.
I love you know, getting to feel your vibe and see what you're all about, and just getting to spend the time with you. Your energy's fucking amazing, dude. I think you're gonna do amazing shit, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna steal one of your guns off the wall.
Steal them all. Listen, hey, if I gotta help arm you, I'm more than willing to do it. We need more foot soldiers out there like you.
I got a pretty decent arsenal, but it's not.
This is just a few samples. If you catch,
shit
this is
compared to
just some
yours.
samples. Now, let everybody know where they can find you and how they can reach you and how they can follow you.
Everything's just Cody Stamann on Instagram, Twitter. I'm on Instagram a lot, not so much on Twitter. There's too many fucking idiots on there for me. But yeah, Cody Stamann, CodyStamann. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm fucking.
Do you answer messages or no?
Oh yeah.
All
Even the bad ones. Actually,
Yeah.
I fucking love answering the bad ones.
Slide into the DM, kids.
Yeah.
There you go. So
Teach you about your life.
there you have it. And if you want to come to Vegas, he's looking for sparring partners. The mats are open. I appreciate having you. I think it's been fucking amazing. I'm looking forward to this, especially watching your career and everything that happens with you. Definitely had a blast, and I'll have you back in anytime that you want to, man. You're a fucking warrior for sure. And yeah, no, of course. And everybody go give them a follow. I'll put the links down below. And I want to thank all the sponsors. I want to thank everyone at Blackwater Ammunition, Gallo Technologies, Rhino Metals, and of course Galco Holsters. I appreciate everyone taking the time to listen. Please leave a review. I do a terrible job asking for reviews. Leave a review on iTunes, anywhere podcasts are heard, or on YouTube. Go ahead and leave a comment, leave some hate. Appreciate everyone, and can't thank Cody enough for stopping in. We're out.
Good shit, bro.
That was awesome.